Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Gay2k, a podcast for nostalgic millennial queers. We watch the old movies that you love so you don't have to. Today, I am joined by my good friend John Paul, and we're going to discuss the 2005 movie musical Rent.
Rent, 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 rent. That rent. You know it. You know it. You love it.
Um, did you see this movie in theaters?
Oh my goodness. So I had to go back into my mind palace and think about this. So the movie came out in 2005. If you recall, we were freshmen in
Yes, freshman in
November,
college,
November 2005. So yeah, like
November 23rd, 2005.
my dad's birthday. Oh wow. Happy birthday,
So
dad.
probably did not see it on the release day.
No, yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly when I saw this, but it was a big deal. I remember being like, "Oh my God, Rent is out! It's finally a movie, the day we've been waiting for." And so I probably actually did see it in the movie theater with my boyfriend at the time, and I think we probably bought the DVD immediately. This was like peak musical era when we were going around to public libraries and like getting every musical soundtrack that we could get our hands on. So
Mhm.
I was definitely living in Alphabet City at this time.
So the release of Rent, the gayest major motion picture streak in blockbuster history, because November 23rd you have Rent, December 6th you have The Brokeback Mountain, and then
The
the week
Brokeback Mountain.
the Brokeback Mountain, and then the week after that you have The Family Stone, which is not as gay obviously, but still huge. So in within a calendar month of each other, those are three major movies for the queer community.
I think a lot about freshman year of college because it was my first year, like in college, right? And like at a
Mm-hmm.
Catholic university. But I remember culturally that like there was a shift in like gay acceptance. And so I was out in high school and I was, of course, out in college. And even then, I was very like people were not ready for that. But I was like, but we have Rent, y'all. Like, and Brokeback Mountain, like, come on. So, yeah, I was in the air.
Yeah, there were like I remember meeting people from the Creighton Gay Straight Alliance or whatever they called it when I was in college, and there was like only four people there.
And I was not one of them.
Yeah, yeah. So the time is really interesting, right? And I don't think that we can talk about the Rent as a movie without discussing why it was even able to be made into a movie, which is the second coming of Idina Menzel in Wicked, right? Everybody wanted to have some piece of Wicked, and there are lots of studios optioning to make Wicked into films, and that was just not a place that anybody was ready to go yet. So the next thing you do is you grab her other major Broadway musical and you turn it into a movie. Like,
Is this a conspiracy theory? This is like all goes back to Adina. Like this is all her doing.
I don't think, yeah, I don't have any like
I mean,
specific,
I
like,
believe like you're
you're
accurate.
right. It could be a conspiracy theory, but like why the timing of it is just so weird to me. And maybe it's because the timing is weird in my mind because I watched Wicked in theaters and then watched Rent.
uh,
Um
well, I
like
was
I
because
just saw Wicked for good. So
well, I was
maybe
definitely
that.
thinking about Miss Adele Dazeem as someone calls her. But no, really thinking about Adina, and I think yes, at this time I conflate Wicked with Rent, like No Day But Today for Good. Both of these yeah, I remember in high school being really wicked pilled, and then also because of that, like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and check out her other work. She's also in Rent, um, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I think she is very underappreciated for her contributions to gay culture. The she's probably not. I think she's people know her, but I actually think that
But
like
they should
Adina,
always be more
she could, yeah,
appreciated.
I think she's like yeah, no, I think we can really like appreciate these characters that she's like originated. I think like Maureen, like I'd see Adina when I'd see Maureen. I'm like, you're playing yourself, but you're not. You're acting. Like there's this,
Mhm.
like I didn't think a lot with Rent, and especially because it was created like 10 years after. These actors who originated the role, like it's them. They are these people. So for me, there's always this weird like, where does the story end? Where does the character begin? Because in my mind, you've been Mark, you've been Angel, you've been Maureen
Mhm.
forever. So yeah,
Except
shout out Adina.
except for Jesse L. Martin. He's been the guy from Law and Order. Yeah, I definitely saw it in theaters. I saw it twice. something that I don't talk about much and haven't even talked about on this podcast is that I have an uncle who died of AIDS in the 90s. My dad's the brother that he was closest to, the brother right
Hmm.
under him in age. And so I saw it with friends, and then I went home for Thanksgiving break, like literally the next, like I saw it twice, basically back to back. And I finally convinced my dad, like, this could be good. Like, let's go see
Yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah,
And my dad walked out and he was like, thank you for making me see that. And
yeah.
he was like, but he was also at the same time like, it's still like everybody in that movie still dies. You know that, right? Like, that was my dad's. Like,
Well, like yeah, everyone will die, but
mm-hmm,
no, I think that kind of then just points to kind of like this popular culture mentality around Rent that it was just like, oh, these people with AIDS, they're all like,
mm-hmm,
which I'm like, yes, and the story is
mm-hmm,
about mortality and understanding that you need to live life for life, and why you got to focus on that part? I've always
right.
found that so interesting.
Do you remember hearing about Rent the first time? Like, do you remember becoming aware of Rent? Because for me, it's always been like part of the cultural like zeitgeist because it was a hit on Broadway. It wasn't,
Mhm.
it's not like subculture. It was a big deal on Broadway when it was happening. And so then that happened, and we weren't really aware of the success of it because we were kids. I like I've met theater people have always been introducing me to various things. That's what we do, right? We're like, have
Mhm.
you heard this musical? That's
Yeah.
just who we are. When I was a freshman in Titusville, Florida, I had a friend who was like obsessed with the musical and had seen it in Orlando and was super cool about it and just yeah, wanted to always talk about it. And then so I like knew of that. Um and then like Wicked happened, right? And you and I then were like, oh, but that's the person who was in Rent. Like I feel like I
Yeah.
already like I've always kind of known about it, but I
Yeah.
didn't become like a Rent head. If I'm not even really a Rent head, but I didn't become a super fan of the music until the movie. For me, like that's just how it tracks.
Yeah, no, I think Rent has always for me, I equate it to Lion King, right? Like I'm like it's this big, like because Lion King was a musical, right? So it's just like
Mm-hmm.
a musical is production that you have to go to New York to see. It is what theater is. So like even if you're like interested in theater from like a very elementary viewpoint, they're gonna be like, and then successful musicals like Rent, Lion King. Like I think this comes up as just an example of what the art form is, which I think is testament to Jonathan Larson that this is good. Like watching this and listening to this, I think you can, it's not perfect. And I think that's the expectation of perfection that is placed upon Rent. I'm like, let it be what it is. But I think it's it is so prolific and because it's quality. Like I think it connects to just very important themes about humanity, and it just showed. I always like to think of like new ways of living. I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is kind of it is very contemporary pulse, and that's why we're talking about it 30 years later.
What's interesting to me about the bohemian lifestyle of New York of the late 80s and 90s is that like seeing that versus what we had seen in New York when we visited in 2004. John Paul and I were part of a high school trip. I don't even know what they called it. It just various teachers selected their favorite students and we went to New York. Like there wasn't even like a way to apply, right? Like we
Well,
just
I can refresh your memory. So this was a grant through Cox Communications. It was Cox Connects Kids, and so our high school had different departments, like the information technology department, the performance arts track, and then the finance track. And so two kids from each department were selected to go on this all expense paid trip to New York City. We stayed in Times Square. It was the best time of my life.
Mhm.
But we were just the cool gay kids that did theater, honestly, because we then got to go. Like we've traveled the world so many times, because then we
Mhm.
got to go back,
Yeah. The
and
second
then
time we went was for academic decathlon. That I feel like we had to work for a little bit. Although, didn't the whole team wind up going anyways? And
everyone
not
but
just,
like two or four
yeah.
people. But we digress. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely like. New York City, I think, was a character for us in high school. And I think that's just for every gay kid. Like this idea of this other place that you can run away to where people are gay and they're themselves and they're like hanging out, you know. And
Hmm.
I think that's what we just all we wanted was just to do that.
In a very early episode of the podcast, Alex referred to New York as our Emerald City. And he was always like, he never got to go. He never got to visit the Emerald City. And you and I are Elphaba and Glinda off to meet the
No,
wizard.
this is true. No, I was very privileged and blessed to have the opportunities. But I think that's an accurate assessment of means to people. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I bring that up because like New York in the 90s is like gritty and the homeless population and Rudy Giuliani did a whole bunch of stuff to change the way that at least the parts of the city that we were able to visit as tourists deal with the homeless population. And by that way, I mean he made them invisible.
Mm.
And that's a whole other thing that we could get into, but I just wanted to bring that up because the like grittiness that you see in Rent is very contrast to the glitz and glam of our
Well, I
New
would say yeah,
York.
even because kind of like as I was looking at like the old reviews and like what were people saying at the time, and part of the criticism is like there's a removal of like the homeless or unhoused narrative. They feature
Mm-hmm.
a lot less, you know, scenes and characters, and it's more of the unhoused are more of a plot point in the stage production and in the
Mm-hmm.
film version, which I think kind of just echoes to that like, oh well, Times
Yeah.
Square now is Disney World, right? Because we were
Mm-hmm.
like our high school trip was to stay there and we got to, you know, beautiful hotels. Like we were like
Yeah,
cloud nine, you
we
know.
went to go see the TRL set. We
Yeah,
went
like
to The Lion King, speaking of.
yeah.
That was our
I think
Broadway
we stayed in
experience.
the Aladdin Theater Hotel. Like I don't know, it was wild.
Yeah,
But like I think that sanitized version of New York existed in the film because that's just the
they reflected the
it
2005
reflected what it
reality.
was. Like they were like, well,
Mm-hmm.
it's New York. And I think you
Mm-hmm.
like you couldn't actually recreate it. You know, I think that's if we're saying what's wrong with the movie, I think that's just one of the things. Yeah.
Yeah. And where Christopher Columbus tries, there is one scene where Mark is filming the cops harassing
Oh yeah.
a homeless person and is like, "Smile for Ted Koppel, gentlemen." And the homeless woman's retort is brilliant. I don't remember all of it, but I do remember like she's basically like, "I don't, you don't." I'm not here to like assuage your guilt. And then he's like,
Hmm.
hey, she's the best line maybe in the entire movie. Not really, because there's lots of great lyrics, but the best spoken line. Hey, artist, you got
Got
a
it all.
dollar?
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah. That's oh my goodness. Yeah. And I think that's what makes this musical great is that it, you know, really is for artists by artists. And I think, you know, just the bohemian lifestyle. Like I look at this and I'm like, oh, we would just call that queer. You know, like I think if you made Rent today, it would just be queer, you know, like and so
queer,
definitely
queer,
like
queer, queer,
queer, queer, yeah,
queer.
queer. Yeah. Uh you know, but I think it touched on so many things about like yeah because artists sometimes think they are doing something super important by documenting or filming or and I think there isn't that I think a good artist will understand permission, will understand context, and can like take you know receive that feedback
Mm-hmm.
and you know adjust accordingly. And I think you know I think people want these characters to be perfect, but they're obviously flawed. And one of the reviews, I was like, they're just all they do is talk about making art, but they don't make art. They're just too busy singing. I'm like, are literary elements confined to a screen. They're going to act out these scenarios for you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, no, I think the characters are very reflective of real people, though. You know.
Yeah. So, who are you if you're one of the six of them?
Well, can't you tell by my fancy hair that I have on today? I think I really identify with Mark more nowadays. Actually, I think I always did, but he was one of those characters that I felt I would never be able to play. I would have been a Collins. I would have been if I was thin enough, I could have been an angel.
Mm,
But or a Benny. Like I would be those. I would never be like you're not the main character narrator guy. But I played Cat in the Hat in high school, narrator,
mm,
and kind of just my current. I am a mark of my friend group. I am the one who documents and like
yeah.
is the focal point, right? And kind of has the connections.
I think it's easy to relate to Mark. But yeah, I mean, it's from his perspective. He's the narrator. He's the one driving the plot. I think it's have been both a Maureen and a Joanne, depending on different times of my life and what I'm doing and who
I
I'm
definitely see
talking to.
that. Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's just a flip of the switch there of if I'm the performer or if I'm taking the back seat. I think they're so important. I don't think that um, queer lesbian culture used to be obsessed with Maureen and Joanne, and
Hmm.
then we got other things like the L word, and they fell off into the back.
Yeah,
And but I do think they reflect an experience that is so real and still continues to this day in a very honest way. Like there is sexual gray areas and there are people who are just outgoing and flirtatious, and what are those boundaries and how do you establish that in an adult relationship and how do you communicate those so that then these flirtatious situations don't send you off a deep end, right? Like
yeah. That's why, like, I like if it was filmed today, it'd be called queer because I'd be like polyamory. You know, I think we could have this whole idea of just, um, what was I gonna say? I think yes, I think there's a lot of relationship dynamics that uh I think mainstream culture just wasn't quite ready to accept, but it could like peek into, could like kind of be like, oh, this is how they live in Alphabet City. Okay, weirdos. You know, I think there's a little touch of that to where there's a observer, like you're looking
mm-hmm.
onto these, you're placing judgment onto these.
Right.
But I think that's just
Well, and there's
nature of
an
being a stage show. You know, you're
yeah,
gonna do that.
and there's just enough straight people so that straight people can feel like they can anchor themselves in the Mimi Roger Benny love triangle too, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just enough for the straight people to feel like they're included. Okay. Oh, speaking of Jonathan Larson, my wife told me that she was convinced that he was a gay man who died of AIDS. Like her entire where did that rumor come from? Do you remember hearing that? Was that a perspective that you were ever
I think that's a Mandela effect in action. Um, I think that honestly, I think it's just when you don't have all the information, your mind just starts to fill in this background. I think that makes sense. That
right?
it's like,
Yeah, like
oh,
oh,
like
he died. Yeah,
yeah,
and
like
this
if you
this is
find out that
about
he
his
died,
life.
you're gonna like assume that because Mark is very autobiographical. He that is kind of
Mm-hmm.
like he was had a Maureen that left him for a Joanne, so that is kind of like his perspective. Um, and so I think it's just that the story itself is so big because yeah, he died like was it preview night like the before night before previews.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Um, and I think there exists a universe where he didn't die, and Rent is not as important as it is today.
I also said that when we were watching it. I was like, if Jonathan Larson didn't die, does this become the hit that it is? And unfortunately, I think the answer is no, because what better way, unfortunately, to create a buzz around a musical that is essentially about the journey to the afterlife, if you're following Angel's story,
Mm.
um, than knowing that the person that wrote it went on that journey. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is wild.
yeah. And I
Um,
think that had he been able to stick around with it, maybe um, work with the movie adaptation, right? I think there's so like he left
mhm.
it at a certain point, and I don't know that it changed in the right ways, or if it did, it was coming through that singular vision. Um, but no, I think Jonathan Larson, he was a student of the art form. Like he took La Boheme and he brought it, made it contemporary, and just the songwriting, the lyrics, the it's yeah, it's. I think it's not perfect, but I don't think he wasn't trying to be like, well, now I'm making a gay play, and I think a lot of people
Mhm.
automatically like this is a gay play, and like it's not gay enough. I'm like, And like I think with Mimi and Roger, that's an important story, like especially because it is the show is AIDS is one of the central plot points of this entire
Yeah, it's
movie.
almost its own character. It's so
Yeah, and
big.
it's
Hmm.
I think and we can sometimes really hyper focus on AIDS impact on particular communities, right? And I think this movie does a good job of like, oh, there were people who were doing drugs, and one way of doing drugs was intravenously, and we didn't really think about if it was clean or not, right? And so
Hmm.
these are people that also are impacted and affected, and I think kind of going back to this La Vie Boheme, this bohemian lifestyle, is like, oh, if you're living this lifestyle, you're going to encounter danger, but that's part of life, right? I think that's kind of what this movie comes around to, is that like are these terrible, tragic things that can happen to you,
Hmm.
but you have to live every day as if it is your last, because we all won't be here at some point. So I really God bless those straight characters because I think they are very essential to just actually getting a good glimpse at what life was like for everyone impacted by this disease.
It's interesting because in 2005, we're not past the AIDS epidemic. The AIDS epidemic still lives and exists and is still always going to be part of the queer community.
Mm-hmm.
Very different now, though, right? Because now there's medicines like PrEP, and the treatment itself for HIV is incredible, and people live long lives with HIV, significantly longer than they did in the early 90s for sure. So I think too this it's like a historical moment that is super important to the queer community, and I think that it will kind of always live as this kind of marker of a moment that shaped the queer community and shaped New York City itself, and essentially the whole country. But those people, like you said, that were living that bohemian lifestyle, like the good and the bad of that, right? And what does that look like, and how do we then move forward after lots and lots of people start dying? And we don't see the aftermath of any of that in Rent, but we do see the emotional impact of a death and kind of moving on from one grieving moment. And that's huge. Even though it's all of this only happens over the course of 526,600 minutes.
That is there a song that like taught you that or something? No, yeah, and I think kind of thinking, how the advances that we've made in society. Again, I'm gonna give credit to Rent because I think in order for people to actually care and to understand it, to take it to heart, is you need that art form. You need like that vehicle. And I think that's this premiered in 1996, but it's set in 1989. So I think, this wasn't something that was created overnight as I'm going to make a gay play. And I think some people,
Mm-hmm.
again, want to like make it so simplified and like that it's not a big deal, that it's like not that good, where I'm like, no, this is actually his magnum opus because he died.
Mm-hmm.
He never like this is and it changed, I think it changed the world because it really gave soul to these problems that like people couldn't articulate. I
Mm-hmm.
think people were so afraid. I think when we're afraid of things, we can just like mark it as bad, evil, different.
Right.
But when you put a good song behind it, I think that's when
Right.
you can reach people.
And are there lyric choices that might have been tweaked during preview nights? Maybe, but we won't know, right? I always think
Mhm.
about that when they oh my god, light my candle. Fun song, but the do you want to dance with you? No, with my father. I'm Roger. That lyric
Yeah,
haunts me.
it has to be. It's a reference, like Dancing with My Father. I think that is a reference.
I hope so. I don't know the reference, and so every time I hear it, I'm like, that's a choice. I know
It's
I'm
a
not.
song by Luther Vandross,
Oh,
but it came out in 2003.
okay, so not that one then.
Maybe no. So yeah, no. Wow, he like Jonathan Larson is so prophetic. He knew that this would make sense. Uh, but no, yeah, I've come to like love the cringe of Brent at times. I think I think the older I get, the more I love a good cringe moment in theater, and just like, kind of going back to like our talk about Trick about what makes a good chorus, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it is like in the Today for You, like the song about killing the dog, right?
Oh my
Uh
God.
to me,
Yes.
I remember a kid being like, "They kill that dog is so bad, it's evil, it's
What
mean,"
an upbeat song about a horrible thing that you did for money.
but like I that Akita Vita just won't shut up. And I think if the song was about anything else, like it wouldn't be. It's not theater. And I think this
Hmm.
show gives us full on theater. Like it is experiences. Yeah, the dog died. Like this is an experience. This is who else dies? Everyone who has this disease is going to die. So I
Hmm.
think for me it kind of broke through this idea of just like, oh yeah, no, like there is like mortality. This
Well,
is something
right.
that this play is about the fact that even the dog isn't
Right.
safe.
Well, and that's no, that's such a good point too, because in that moment, and you don't know this necessarily, but Angel chose killing a dog over starving. Like, like they're a street performer. Like they need money to survive. Like
Yeah.
that's the reality, and probably money to buy AZT because they don't have insurance. Nobody does. So
And it was, what is it? We would find out it's Benny's dog. So his wife
yes.
was the one who pulled up and was like, "I'll give you $1,000 if you play your drums until this dog, jumps off the
Yes.
balcony."
Please kill
Um,
this dog for me.
and I think that, like, those the class collisions happen a lot in this, and um I think those are sometimes the only things that happen in New York. I think that's where you have such extreme wealth that is coming into contact, where like, yeah, this lady did pay the street performer to, drum all night to kill the dog. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that like La Vie Boheme is another one.
Mm,
Love it. Like I think, yeah, as a kid I could have been very like, I was sometimes very prude as a kid because I was like, I don't want to talk about that stuff. But
mhm.
uh, now as an adult, I'm like, this is the best. And yeah, I think, thank you, Jonathan Larson.
Yeah. I know every word to the Vivo app. Like I just do. I don't even
I know.
like
Yeah, yeah,
listen to
yeah.
it very often, but I just at
No, when
some
that
point in
started playing,
time,
yeah.
at some point in time in my life, I took the time to know those lyrics, and now I still know them. That's
Yeah. Sing along, go. No, yeah,
what if that was the entire podcast, just us singing Rent to each
yeah.
other?
Oh my God, no, there's a universe where that happens. Uh, no, but yeah, was listening to that last night while I was just walking my dog, and um, I think just it's a philosophy. It's like it's a codex. It's a way, like
Mhm.
everything that, some of that reference. I don't say the references are dated, but I think there's
The
you know
lingo itself is dated, at least the way in which it's spoken about is dated. The references still exist, but like what we specifically call those companies or those kinds of
or just
things
like
or whatever.
Lenny Bruce. Tell me,
Langston Hughes still holds up, but yeah, Lenny
yeah.
Bruce doesn't hold up. He was a
Um,
stand-up comedian. Is that who Lenny Bruce was? No, don't worry about it. Not important, but yes,
He's a
various.
stand-up comedian. He did it. Yeah. My favorite part of La Vie Boheme, and like Maury doesn't say it, but there's the part where Dorothy and Toto went over the rainbow to blow up Auntie M. Just the fact that Adina's in the room
Mm,
with that, like, and the fact, like, I'm like, did anybody understand this connection? So when I heard that again, that like I geeked out because I was like, oh, I can draw a
yeah,
line from Wicked now to Rent. Like,
yeah. It's almost its own Easter egg. Not once again, not that Jonathan Larson could have known,
Cut had no
or maybe
idea.
he did. Speaking of Idina, I went down a very strange rabbit hole because we raise our glass, you bet your ass to,
Yeah.
and we see Idina Menzel's ass. I was like, is that really Idina Menzel's ass? And there are very few any actual articles about it, but I did find one random bulletin board that was like, she showed her ass on the Broadway play. And so then she like really wanted to redo it, but she was worried. She's like, my ass is old now. And at some point in time, Rosario Dawson's mom was like, nah, girl, you good. And then like they still,
Oh.
yeah. So
We had to get talk about age. So Mimi has a lyric where she goes, "I'm 19," or yeah, like I mean,
You
I
look
heard that.
like you're 16. I'm 19, but I'm old for my age. Also in Light My Candle. Those lyrics.
Yeah,
All right.
but like I remember, of
She
course, as a
was.
kid, I was young, like I was under 19, so that wasn't didn't register me. But like as a 38-year-old, I'm like, what? You're 19? And then like, wait, so then all and yes, these people are supposed to be very young. They're supposed to be in their
Mm-hmm,
early 20s, and I think that's part of um, they brought back most of the original cast
mm-hmm.
from the Broadway musical, and what was it? Adam Pascal Roger, he didn't want to do it because he's like, I'm too old. Like I don't like I'm in my mid 30s. I'm not in my
Mm-hmm.
early 20s.
Right. And I
But
think that's why they cast Rosario Dawson. The actress that was Mimi was like, yeah, no, I'm not playing a 19-year-old.
Mimi, I like to say Mimi, the actress, what's her name? Daphne Rubin Vega.
Yeah.
She was pregnant at the time.
Well, that'll do it too.
So it
Yeah.
was the actress who played Joanne who was like, I am too old. So like
Oh, okay.
I think but so yeah, I go back and forth. I don't mind the original cast. I think they are, like I said, they've become so
Iconic.
iconic. Yeah, and like I think this was like I feel like Christopher Columbus made this in as homage to Jonathan Larson's vision, of like as like
Mm-hmm.
uh particular as he could make it. Granted, he did take some liberties, he changed it, but I think thinking of it as movie, as Times Square, billboard ad, like movie, like major motion picture, right?
Major
Um,
motion picture.
Major
Yeah.
motion, like, and for like to be seen all around the world. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I like that because everyone's like, well, what they could have cast new people, and I'm like, no, now we could. I think now we're ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, especially at the turn of millennium, like I think, oh, if we're going to officially canonize any great work, I think Rent is one of them, and let's do it this
Mm-hmm.
way with
Right.
Adina Menzel. Because yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's if you have to have Adina Menzel, but if you don't like, if you have her, you have to have everyone else. So that, I kind of feel like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're
I
going
think
back to
from
your
the
argument
point,
about
like,
it. Yeah,
yeah, if you start with Idina Menzel and you're like, oh no, like everybody would want to have her in this for sure because of the Wicked explosion, then you cast her, and then like, how do you like you have to have Anthony Rapp as Mark. Like the entire vibe is different if it's not Anthony Rapp. Like,
Adina
uh,
Menzel and all these like 14-year-olds. That's
yes.
the version people
Um,
want.
and I think that's part of why Rosario Dawson, even though she was like 26 or 27, it's not, she still looks like there's a huge age gap playing 19 versus these people who are supposed to be like 25 because she's 26, but they're 32, 33, 34.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like that, I think works out. I think it's weird. I think it was weird watching it because I knew, like I was like, yeah, these people are old, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all now as a 39-year-old.
No,
And
not at
also,
all.
how historically, like, how much is that seated in tradition that these old people, like, it goes back to Greece. Like,
Yeah.
John Travolta was like, how old playing a teenager? At least 30. Like,
Yeah, no, I stand by the casting of this movie because I think that, you know, I don't I for me this should be just like free to the public. This is a body of work that like just stream it. Let's just put it in the schools. Um and because like everyone's like, oh, it was a commercial failure, and I don't think that's not the point of this. I think that it's the the spirit, the music, the feeling that you get from this, and yeah, I don't know. I This movie just feels like it does feel like a warm hug, from the past when I was watching it. And yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way.
what is your favorite movie musical?
Oh, my favorite movie music, Little Shop of Horrors. My favorite
Oh,
movie
so
musical.
good. I don't know. It's almost like we've talked about this a million times throughout our life. And I think that's been our answer for a long time because that is absolutely still my answer. Technically, as a like a film and tech theater snob, I do think Chicago is still the best executed in terms of cinematography. Just it's really good. Even better than Les Mis. I still stand by that because here's the thing that they did with Les Mis, and it's a thing that people complain about in reverse a lot. People always complain when they cast people who can't act or who
Mm.
can't sing but can act, right? Like, and this Les Mis did both. Samantha Banks, who played Eponine in the movie, it doesn't translate. She acts on stage perfectly fine. It does
Mm.
not translate to film. That scene is not what it should be. And then they also have Russell Crowe, who
Yeah.
whose face is great. He's got all of the emotion there, but none of the notes are there. And I think, yeah, like, no, you can't have
Well,
both of those mistakes in one movie. You can have one or the other, and the movie can still be passable, but not both.
Well, it just reminds me, like I wasn't in this production, but when South High did Les Mis, and you were the stage manager, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so this Omaha, Nebraska high school doing Les Miserables in 2003 at the time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And just I remember. I think I didn't see the movie Les Mis because I was like, actually, I'm good. I tried watching it once in high school when my school did it, and it was too much for me to handle. There's like it's musically. I listened to the music. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like this is trained professionals only. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
we
think that is
talked.
definitely a movie that should have gone more of just like the let's cast for voices versus like appearances. So
Yeah, for sure. Um, the funniest thing about doing Les Mis in high school is that no matter what, and I mentioned this on another episode, no matter what, the people playing these characters are still going to be high schoolers. Like, you can't do, like, you can put makeup on somebody, like, whatever. Everybody knows that's still a high school kid. And
I think of when it some of the theater decisions that were made in high school, I think was done more out of like we gotta be the first to do this,
mm,
and not really like and like I think that was one of those examples
yeah.
where it was this is new to high school students, but I think that again this teacher is no longer with us, and I think that was
Mhm.
one thing that he was good at was getting those cutting edge opportunities at the
Making
same
those,
time.
yeah, making those experiences that very few other people will ever experience.
Uh,
I really worried, speaking of high schools doing theatrical performances, Hamilton, I'm not ready for all white schools in the Midwest to tackle Hamilton. I'm just
well, I've never seen Hamilton. I've never listened to it. I've been my relationship to musicals. I had like 2 solid years in high school, or that was like live, breathe, died it. Um, and then yeah, like I just have not really kept up with theater or like musicals at all.
oh,
So yeah, Hamilton, like I was like, nope, like immediately Lin Manuel Miranda, nope, like I don't know. I think also for me as like a theater kid, um, there as a jealousy to musical because I feel like I have so many opportunities that I was denied. I was like, I can't
mm,
participate in this one. Like, I think in like college and so yeah, I don't know.
mm,
I have this like, oh, I'm not allowed to sing and dance with the rest of them. I got to do this. So I
yeah,
think I kind of carried that into like an adulthood. Um, but no, yeah, I think if it's I'm a snob. I'm like, if it's mainstream, I don't want it. But that's my own insecurity. Okay.
guys, I love Hamilton. John Paul, it's okay. So
Oh,
you haven't mm, like Heather's the musical? No?
I saw Heather's at the
Okay.
Blue Barn.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm trying to like
You know
I feel
what
like
musical that's modern that I can't stand? I'll say it on the record. I
what
don't understand Dear Evan Hansen. I think it's creepy that this dude pretends to be friends with a dead guy and then hooks up with his sister. Like, I know there's more layers to it than that, but that plot point alone is too creepy for me to get over.
well I think the movie also suffers from the same thing that Rent suffers from, where it's like we must cast the original actor, and again, like I remembered the trailer for this with Ben Platt in
Mm-hmm.
like high school, and it was jarring. Like I was like,
Yeah.
you don't pass for a high schooler.
There have been a lot of fun modern musicals. I am gonna go see Six when it comes to the Orpheum because it's the Spice Girls, but they're King Henry VIII's wives. Like, that's too fucking cool to pass up on. I also Book of Mormon didn't come out when we were in high school, and I love Book of Mormon. I like funny musicals. I like musicals that do something different and kind of twist the genre. And
Yeah. Well, just thinking about, experience with musicals like the movie Hairspray. I think that could be a whole episode.
Yeah,
Because
we'll
I was,
save that for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I did see it in the theater 11 times.
Okay, back to Rent, because I think we've talked a lot about it, but also not talked a lot about it. Favorite song?
Oh, La Vie Boheme is definitely my favorite song overall. Um, I like Goodbye Love too. That is
Mm-hmm.
just like the chords progressions in that. I think, there's just really good love songs. I'll Cover You.
Yes, that's my answer. That's my favorite for sure. I like my wife and I do the harmonies. I do Collins and she does Angel. We're completely ridiculous.
I think, yeah, Tango Maureen. Yeah, no, what's your like least favorite song? That's kind of what.
Okay, so it's not even a bad song, but I do have a beef with one. In Your Eyes, I have a beef with that only because One Song Glory is perfect. And One Song Glory is about writing the perfect song, and the result is In Your Eyes.
Yeah, no,
And to
I was
me,
thinking
I'm
that.
just like, no,
Well,
you
yeah, no,
already did that. Like that was this like what?
well, I think, yeah, it's the expectation. So yeah, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the song I've been working on, babe, and it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's good. Like it does, like, but because it doesn't like. I think that song doesn't stick out like the other songs do. I think, granted, it's at the end of the movie, so I think we've already kind of like filled our brim with good
Mm-hmm.
music. But I think it's still, despite all that, it doesn't take me anywhere new. Yeah, I think One Song Glory. I think it's for me. It like stands on its own. A lot of these songs do.
Mm-hmm.
You could just like do them and like put them in the American Songbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I also Over the Moon. I was jamming too. She was giving like, again, talking like, just Jonathan Larson being ahead of his time, was giving a very Madonna Ray of Light to me.
Mm-hmm.
The leap of faith. It felt like he was
Mm-hmm.
definitely knew the sound of the 90s that hadn't even arrived yet. Maureen was kind
Mm-hmm.
of, she was that avant-garde. She was, because of
Mm-hmm.
that performance piece. And so I really
Yeah.
like, I
I
love
mean,
that part of the movie. That, to me, that was like, yeah, this is theater, man. Like, Maureen to me was, she was the most successful at all of
I
them.
think one of the most amazing things about that, and maybe about the whole thing, especially when it comes to like the corporate element of it, is how true that all that song always is. Like
Mm,
the cow that's sponsored by Coca-Cola and therefore can
yeah.
only drink Diet Coke. Like that's where we are still. That's what influencers do.
Yeah,
This podcast is not sponsored by Diet Coke, by the way.
and never will be. Right? Hope, I don't know. But yeah,
I mean, if Coke really wants to give me money, right? That's
yeah.
I just did the thing. I'm the problem.
What I think this is what's so 90s and about this, it's like we'll talk about what makes it Gay2k, but the 90s element for me is like, we're gonna build a cyber cafe, so it's like the future is building this place where we can be cyber together, we can be online, but then even looking at how now, like, that's passe. Like, no, cyber
Mm-hmm.
cafes, we don't need, no one wants to go someplace to sit on a computer, but that's because technology has advanced so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that like capitalism is going to continue to evolve. And um, I think for me, what Rent does is it captures late stage capitalism at a very particular moment where, um, yeah, you could, I think this story sets up chosen family is real. Benny is one of us. We're living in Benny's
Mm-hmm.
building. He bought it for us so we can just create and make art. And
Mm-hmm.
then he betrays us and he wants all the back rent, which, like, that's him kind of like, he's leaving the group. He's changing the dynamics. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, but I think that's part of that bohemian lifestyle. It's like, oh, we can all take care of each other. We can all work together until someone else comes along with more money and they want you to do something.
Yeah, for sure. I think growing up is, realizing that Benny is just part of the system and he's not a villain outright, for sure. I think like watching it in college, I was like, that guy, well, first of all, I was like, well, like, what do you mean they don't pay rent? I'm confused by that concept. But once you get past that, I think it's like, yeah, Benny's an asshole. Fuck Benny. But now, like, as a 38-year-old, it's like, I mean, this isn't really his fault. Like, it's just such a bigger, he's just a symptom. Like
Yeah.
what he's going through, what he's doing is just a symptom of the machine. Like,
Yeah, and I think that's, again, what good theater, what good storytelling is these characters are not perfect. And you get one of the so I was looking at one of the critiques, and it was just like, all they're doing is complaining about paying rent. It's like, get real. Everyone needs to pay rent. And I'm just like, for me, I'm just like, that's again, uh, understanding the story. Like it's about found family. It's about being there for each
mm-hmm.
other and how that starts to unwind, and whether
Yeah.
it be capitalism or death that, comes. And so like, yeah, sometimes you can have it good. Sometimes you can live someplace for free. Sometimes you can make it work. But there are
Mm-hmm.
these forces that, I don't know. I think some people want to apply so much realism to this show that is already very real that, like, just
Mm-hmm.
let them not pay their rent. Like, come on, they
Right.
they they had it good.
Like during that opening scene, I'm like, how many people did Benny promise rent to? But like no, but for the who originally lived there? Maureen, Collins, Benny, Mark, and Roger, right? Those are the
Hmm.
five that originally lived there. Yeah, they had an agreement. That was them. They were family. They were going to do this thing together and all make art. And then Benny fell in love with a rich girl and his dreams changed, right? Um, I don't
Well, I
even
think,
they don't even explain what kind of artist Benny was before.
yeah,
That's
no,
another thing.
like he doesn't seem to fit. Like, I'm like, why is this guy hanging out with you? Like, actually, like he doesn't belong. I like the character of Benny because someone has to be that foil. You have to have someone that moves the plot along. Um, but he doesn't feel like part of, like, when he's in season 11 at the end. I'm like, and what are you doing here, Benny? Like, oh, and what I was I gonna say is, yeah, because then he asks like Mark to like get Maureen to stop her protest, and if you do that, you guys can still live here for free. And so
Mm-hmm.
just how he continues to just manipulate relationships, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
isn't it Mimi, doesn't she, like, isn't it alluded like she gets with him or something to like then like get him to like give them, or like
Yeah,
that's what
so I have
Roger gets mad about?
I have a theory about this. I think Mimi needed somebody to pay for her rehab because later, when they're like all looking for Mimi and they're leaving the voicemails, he says something like, I called the rehab facility and they haven't seen her in like however many days or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, not only are they leaving Roger alone, but you're also getting him to pay for your rehab by doing like whatever. He's still a married dude, so like no details of to like what extent their affair is going
Mm-hmm.
on. But yeah, Mimi uses him to her advantage to the best of her ability.
As
Um
any 19-year-old would and should. And I
yeah.
think but I also think there is something to like people caring for each other, and you have all these relationships. And I think I don't know, when you develop a really good and close friend group, I think those natural things are going to happen. People are going to connect with other people at various points in their life. So like, it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense to me that like, oh yeah, so like Mark was with Maureen, and Maureen's with Joanne, and now Benny's with so like,
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah,
this
just kind of like
adds
an
to this
interweb.
adds to the realism of it, to where like the people that you have the most like connection with, you're gonna have the most connection with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which goes back to that it's all queer for
It's
sure.
queer. Yeah, no, I think they should read this. They could just redo it and call it queer and set it now. And I think a lot of it would still connect. I think the idea of like alienation,
Mm-hmm.
we're all on our screen. We're not in cyberland anymore. We're in phone land. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I think that's what makes it so important for Turn of the Millennium, is that, again, like, looking at these turning points. We used to be able to be bohemian, and now, when Benny has the line, uh, this is our this is Calcutta, but this is Calcutta, Bohemia's dead. Like, this idea, like, oh, there is progress coming. There's things that you can't stop.
Based on what we saw in New York and what we know New York to be in the late 90s, early 2000s, Benny wins. Like, the landscape has shifted. It is even more corporate and touristy and not for the bohemian natives, and at least not in Manhattan. I think they flee to. I think Manhattan is no longer the bohemian refuge that Jonathan Larson depicts.
Oh yeah, and I think that's, we talk about New York City as like the Emerald City for gay kids, right? I as an adult now, I wouldn't choose to live in New York City, no shade. But what are those elements of a utopia, and how do I incorporate those into like my life the ways that I can, to where I as an older adult now, I connect a lot more with Rent because of like understanding my own sense of mortality, and like, oh, like when I was a kid, not it, but today, like I didn't get it. I didn't understand. Like it didn't hit me as hard. Um,
Mm.
you know, and for me, it was really understanding that these characters have this concept of death that they can't escape. There isn't a
Yeah.
cure for this, and lots and lots of people have died, and lots of people have not cared. And I think that emotional, like Roger being afraid to, connect with Mimi, that's so real and makes so much sense for someone in his situation. And I
Yeah.
think, to the outsider, it's just it's like, oh, okay, cat and mouse, when are they going to get to it? Like, actually, no, it's more complicated. Like, there's a lot of complex feelings involved when you
Hmm.
have, something that could be a death sentence, right?
Hmm.
And we know times have changed, but I think you have to look at it from their perspective in that moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. For that, for yes, for the people in 1989, it was, yeah, a matter of when, and they all knew that. I think they saw it as a death sentence. I think that's absolutely part of it. Um, are there any, you said you were listening to the musical soundtrack, or you have listened to the musical soundtrack. Are there any like elements from the stage production that you kind of wish
Well, I
meeting
just thought
this movie?
the one of the biggest controversies was moving Seasons of Love from what have been like the second act opener, I believe, to the
Mm-hmm.
front of the movie. And some people, I guess, what's your take on that?
Like I said, I wasn't like, I was aware of it, but I wasn't like a huge, like I hadn't listened to it 100 times or whatever. Um, yeah, basically the movie version is the version that I know the best. So I don't have a hot take on that.
Mm.
I can see why Christopher Columbus, like as a person who studies film, I can
Oh
absolutely
yeah, I
understand
think.
why you do it that way. It establishes that this is a movie musical very quickly. It's
Oh,
like,
I'm
this
pro.
is
I'm
a
Yeah.
movie musical. By the way, these people would be on stage. These characters are on stage, like I like that visual
Well, yeah,
element
because
of it.
I think the original placement of it was kind of to indicate that a year had passed or that there was.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it at the beginning because I think it sets up for the idea that a year is going to pass. So I think because
Mm-hmm.
the story, starts, what is it, December 24th or 23rd? Um,
Yeah.
and then it like so goes from Christmas to Christmas, which is why
Mm-hmm.
it's coming out at this time. We're reviewing it. Um, but yeah, and I think when you're making a movie, it's different than making a play because you have to hook people in immediately. And I think this is the most iconic song. Give them to 'em up front, like because it
Mm-hmm.
kind of doesn't make sense for it to just for these characters just to do it in the middle of the movie. Like
Yeah. No,
you're
I
gonna
think
mess
it,
with that
yeah.
whole world and
And it has some really awesome foreshadowing. I don't know. I think it has, the movie itself has had its own cult following. And I think we're part of that generation because we weren't part of the original movement. And like it wasn't our thing. Like we weren't adults figuring out our place in the world when 1996 Rent happened, but we
mhm.
very much were in 2005. So I think it's just our Rent. That's that's the one we know.
Our rent, and
Um,
we're not gonna pay our rent.
is it a Christmas movie though? I know I think of it as a Christmas movie. Do you think
Yes,
of
I
it?
think I think of it as a Thanksgiving movie for some reason, even though
Huh.
I think it's because it is very fall. The movie is very dark, like visually. Not
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not the story, not so much actually, but I think it feels very much on a sound stage. I don't know if it is exactly, but
Mm-hmm.
there's so it feels very fall vibes, very end of the year vibes. Their voicemail speak, and
Mm-hmm.
like their parents are calling. So I kind of, when you're listening to this the music, I don't get that, like, oh, these are guys who have parents who worry about them. Like they seemed like pretty independent, but they clearly are like have like I'm like, oh, so you got some mommy and daddies that do care about you, so life isn't all that bad. Like I don't know. So it's weird, like
Yeah.
wanting to like see these like these artists who have no food, they're just so destitute, and then but they have their parents are trying to like just connect with them. I think that was always like
Mm-hmm.
something that wasn't relatable to me because I'm just like, well, like if you have like you don't you're but I think that's the bohemian lifestyle. You can choose it. You can choose to,
Yeah.
uh be self-sufficient, which, they did. So
Yeah. Um, it is interesting how much Mark chooses this. And at the point at which other people could have walked away, and we see that Benny did, like Mark is still in the mix of it. And there's actually a great song that was filmed for the movie that they cut, that's in the original soundtrack. The song is called Halloween.
I like that song. It's a good like
Yeah.
it gets you caught up to everything that had happened, gives you
Mm-hmm.
uh as someone who if I'm watching something, I look at my phone. Sorry, but that song's actually not even in the movie, right? But I think that it should be because I'm like, oh, this is where I can check in and like, what did I miss? What's going on? Um,
And I think it's a huge piece of Mark's character. And we get a little bit of it again and conceptually in the song What You Own, where Mark is a perpetual watcher, right? He says that he observes, he lives
mhm.
behind the lens, he literally talks like he is his own camera crew when it's literally just him. Um, None of the sound is being recorded because he's holding a Bolex 16 millimeter camera. There's not a microphone. Everything that he's saying for his own
Mhm.
sake, and well, for the sake of the audience, obviously. But he really understanding that he feels that it is his job and his duty to capture these lives, even though he knows at the end he's going to be alone, right? Like,
Well, yeah, I think that there's one of the lines or scenes where um Roger is talking to him about like filming or and
mm-hmm.
Mark says like, well, I'll be the one to survive, right? Like that's how do you
Yeah,
like
yeah. And
I
Roger's
like
like, "Oh, poor you." Yeah,
yeah, and so I think Mark's already he knows that he's not afflicted with this, that his friends are, and he has to, that survivor's guilt, and he already
mm-hmm.
has it. I think that's probably, think of how young he's supposed to be in this, right? Like, yeah, like I
Mm-hmm.
think probably in his early 20s, he's going to have this friend group that he's really close with. He's going to document their lives, and then they could be gone by when he's in his 30s or 40s, And I think he, I think, has a hope. And part of that hope is, documenting what was happening, what came before
Mm-hmm.
me. I think that makes him a good narrator. And, this good analog for Jonathan Larson is, you know, um, sometimes, creation isn't like me creating something. Creation is me documenting your creation. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's, what uh, Mark's mission is. And I think that's why he's so because he gets a job with what was it Buzzline, and his riot footage sells, and he quits the job because it's not like closer to his La Vie Boheme,
Yeah, I think, yeah, nail on the head. That's who Mark is. And when we think about Mark and Jonathan Larson, and we think about Mark and Anthony Rapp's performance, like I think Mark is supposed to be entirely straight. I think Anthony Rapp, whether intentionally or not, plays it a little bit like he's in love with Roger. Um, just a little bit.
I get okay. This is a modern reading, but I get asexual vibes a bit from him in that he's so like yeah, he had a relationship with Maureen, but I think Maureen, like she's so dynamic. I think that like she
Mm-hmm.
transcends like sexuality for people because she is a persona. She is a force of nature. So I think, oh yeah, of course, it's either I'm with this person or I'm just alone. I'm fine. I think,
Really loves all of these people so much, even Angel, who he barely knows. And the song What Your Own, he's, saying like he sees her, he hears her
mm,
everywhere. Um and like that's just what theater kid energy, what artsy kid empath energy. Like I relate to that so much. Just like these people, they touch your lives and they stay with you, and you don't know how to explain it, but it's there and you have to honor that. And Mark does that by making a film. I'm doing that by making a podcast.
Yeah, no, and I think that just I think people can come into your lives like fast and furious, and they can leave just as quickly. And oh, these people just met Angel, right? And so it hasn't even been a year, and um, you know, that's I think that's the magic of like New York City. Say is that you could meet someone new every day, and they could play a big part of your life. And also, I think that then lends to like that certain element of like the danger of like you not knowing if the other person has HIV or not, right? And so like they're really
Mhm.
living at this time where it's like, what is trust? How do you trust someone? How do you invite people in? And kind of just following their heart, like um and showing compassion towards others. Kind of what it taught me is that like you could be afraid of other people, especially during this time, because it kind of was more safe to be afraid, but you shouldn't be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is all about those seasons of love, right? That's the whole thing. It's all love. So Gay2k rating. No, film came out in 2005, takes place in 1989, based on a musical that was released in 1996, right? So there's a
Mm.
lot of timelines going on in this element. Where on Y2K, how Y2K does it feel to you?
This is tough. What do you go first? I want to hear your.
I think it's lower because of the way they talk about the internet coming and like while the capitalistic greed and the isolation and the themes of how internet makes you feel is all still very real,
Hmm.
the way in which they talk about it is very early 90s and yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
I could
know.
go at three. I think would be,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
I think that is generous in because I think it is 80 set. Written in
Mm-hmm.
'89 or set in '89, debuted in '96, film was 2005, so it's a large span.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yeah, I think it's
But
I
they
don't know
do
two
say
maybe. I don't
you
know.
know, it's at least a three because of how many times they say millennium.
Oh yeah, like when you're living in America at the end of the
At the end of a
millennium, I love that. You're what
millennium.
you own. Well, and like all these themes and like
Mm-hmm.
ideas, and I've said it before, but just really thinking about like the end of times, what the '90s represent to me, and like everything since 2000 is we're just rehashing the past 100
Mm-hmm.
years over and over and over, and but there are these things that like I think are pushing forward. I think Rent like yeah, we're living in America in a millennium, but there is hope still. There is love to be found. Um, yeah, so I would do three for that Y2K rating.
Yeah. Okay. The big one. And I have a very opinionated answer, so I'm gonna let you tackle it first.
Opinionated. Uh,
How gay is it?
oh, it's so hard. And I'm gonna do three again. I think middle down the road. I don't think it doesn't try to be a perfect representation, nor do I think that it needs to be. And yeah, what do you
I
think?
no. I think this is maybe the most important. I don't know, maybe not most important, but most influential to the queer community film that especially that we've covered on this podcast so far. Um,
I would give you that. No, yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
I think
and
yeah,
and the
yeah.
themes, like, I mean, you've got it all. They say all of the words. It's not explicitly sexual, and I guess for that reason, I would rate it a four. But it is queer as hell,
Okay, no,
and
yeah, yeah. No, I
um,
recant my rating. Yeah, no, I think this is like so important, and I think that like it's gay canon. I think that you know when I reviewed Trick, I remember being like, oh, those straight characters, who needs them?
yeah, no,
Or in this
it's
one, I think these, I there isn't straightness in this. It is not like, oh, this is who we are. Like Benny is probably the straightest. It would be
yeah, but you're
Benny is the
right.
heteronormativity that, but I think even Roger, Mark, Mimi, um, these characters that you would define as the straight characters, um, don't like, it's not a hang up for them. Like being around queer people isn't a hang up. I think
No,
part of
at
we think of
all.
straight people as like their aversion to things that are gay. So I think they lived seamlessly. That's why I would be comfortable categorizing them as queer, because it's like for me it's like, well, I'm not like keeping track of who you sleep with. I'm more so like, how do you relate to others? How do you care for others? How do you love others? That's what, and I think that the love that they were having for their friend group was definitely very queer in my eyes.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, Roger maybe the least, but like I said, Mark, there's something, and then Mimi, as we've already learned, that girl will do whatever it needs to be done to to survive, right? So she might have had a sugar mama for a little bit, and like that could have been a whole part of her life. Like,
Yeah, no,
who
I think
knows?
yeah, absolutely. And I think that like, you know, this gets, I think so like boxed into this gay category, and I'm glad it is because we need it. But I think some people limit themselves from experiencing it because they see it as like, oh, it's this gay story, it's this gay narrative, it's a gay musical. That
It
just reminds me.
is. It is like the. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Hold on to that thought. It is like the coolest way to know that somebody is a bomb ass ally if you're like casually talking to them and they're like, "I love Rent. Like Rent is my favorite musical." It's like, okay, straight person, let's
yeah, yeah,
hang.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
it's a safe
Um,
word for sure.
um, no, yeah, just thinking of like, Rent's cultural impact. That's I just thought of the Team America parody. Uh,
Oh God, I was gonna mention that. So I was gonna mention that I thought about mentioning it multiple times. Okay,
it
so
just
Matt Stone and Trey Parker made a film that was a parody of a 1960s Canada show about these people who these characters who were puppets that were action heroes. And part of that movie is that they are trying to cast spies, and so they go to um, and all of the characters are puppets. They're like 18-inch marionette style
mhm,
puppets, and they go. So the spy agency goes to New York to try to find talent of people who can lie very well, and they find this actor who's playing the equivalent of Mark, I guess, because he's
mhm.
the narrator. And the song, like you see the word lease written just like you would see rent on the outside of the building, and then they go into the building, they cut into the building, and the song is "Everyone has AIDS, 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 AIDS. My grandma and my doggo too, AIDS."
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I go back and forth on what I feel about this. 'Cause I think you did the South Park episode, and I think that was, thinking about what their contributions have been to culture, blah blah blah. Where I think maybe this one I was like, like it, because to me, as reading this as like, again, I was a very sensitive kid, very conscious of the world, and like I was just like, you're clearly just making fun of AIDS. Like I felt like, to me it was like, it was low hanging fruit in a way that like I just don't think that. I think now they can go back and be like, oh, there's nuance here, and we're saying something. I'm like, you weren't saying anything back then. You were just being funny or thinking you were I don't know. Like I go
No.
back and forth.
Okay, so I love Matt and Trey. I absolutely do. So I know a little bit about this. Originally, they had intended for the movie to come off very seriously, to be like a dark parody of these puppet. And then they're like,
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't work. This isn't our vibe. This isn't what we're known for. So they rewrote everything about it in 6 days. And so I think there are moments even more so because like they plot out entire arcs on South Park. I think South Park has a little bit more intent than Team America because they really
Mm-hmm.
just kind of threw it together rushing. And so a lot of things are just kind of there. And I think yes, the lyrics of AIDS and the fact that they're making fun of Rent at all is just part of that. But as I've talked about in this podcast before, I had friends who didn't like to be intellectual people in college, and I've seen that movie a lot of times with those friends.
in high school being protective of like gay culture, just
Mm-hmm.
like oh like I'm a theater kid and this is make first off it's making fun of theater. Second off
How
it's
dare you?
making fun of gay people because I think they were still at that time where it's
Mm-hmm.
like AIDS is a gay thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, it just I don't know for as someone who can like I feel like create things and then be like, oh, I this is what I meant by saying it. I think Matt Parker and Trace don't get away with it far too much sometimes. Like again, I can be an apologist for
No,
them any
I
day. I'm
I
not
I
going to.
appreciate your rebuttal on this. I think different perspectives are
Yeah,
important. So yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
especially because I think at this time this is where like they were the first couple of seasons, like second, third season of South
Yeah.
Park, they were like, we don't know what we're doing. I feel like this definitely
Mm-hmm.
comes off that where it's like, what if they were just said like
Yeah.
instead of red,
They
it's
have
AIDS. Like
they have all of the money and they could do anything and they chose to do that. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, but that's art though. It's fine.
Mm.
It's, you know,
So unlike Team America, we do recommend that you see Christopher Columbus's Rent. It would
it
be
is
cool. Like if you can go see it on stage somewhere, cool. That's great too. But I don't think it's currently touring.
I would
So
love to do a stage production of this. So that's something that I'm trying to make happen because I think that even if it's just musically, I think there's you could do so much with this. We're like, oh, we're gonna build a loft apartment. They're gonna be on scaffolds, but I think
mhm,
the story and the music is stands on its own. So that's something I would like to do. So I'll let you know if I make it happen.
that's so cool. Yeah, absolutely. Rent is always going to be a part of my life. It's just part of my culture. It's going to be something that I reference a lot.
I think it's due for a revival comeback, and I think it like it always has. There's been revivals, there's been that, but I think recontextualizing it even is a good thing, and I think that understanding that yeah, Jonathan Larson died right before it came out, so that there is such a distance between the original authorship
Mhm.
and what the story means or could stand for now. So,
Right. Well,
um,
and I think it's only fair. Like people would be like, how can you talk about redoing Rent? Well, first of all, it wouldn't be Rent necessarily. It would be in the same spirit. It's the Bohemian spirit, which is what Jonathan Larson did when he took from Bob Boehm the opera. Like, so
mm,
I think revamping the story would just be continuing that legacy. I don't think it would be like,
yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
I mean, like, let's see what we can. Let's have some fun. Let's see what we can do. Let's pay our rent.
Okay, yeah. Well, thanks again, John Paul, for joining me on Gay2k. You're going to be around, so I'm sure the audience will see you more. And thanks everybody for listening, and we hope you have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.